more than just a competition of athletes. This is a competition of training methodologies. It is the sport of fitness.
We claim to title the fittest on earth, and we can do that because we as a fitness methodology have defined fitness.
And Rich Froning is the fittest man on the planet!
The men and women competing here today have legitimate claim to the title fittest men and women on earth by the same rights and logic that the Lakers, the Steelers, the Penguins, and the Phillies are the best basketball team, football team, hockey team, and baseball team on earth.
No one else is testing fitness, and at this point, no one can make a claim.
People that just come into CrossFit are like, oh, next year I'm going to the games. Kids don't go shoot free throws and think, oh, I'm going to the NBA next year.
There are people that say that this isn't a test, that there are people out there fitter than the people competing here today. Great, prove it.
As the crowd races to their feet.
You guys have for his final stretch.
Dan is flying.
And she is right to work on that slate.
The energy in here is electric.
It's going to be Sam Briggs.
John Benedict gets ahead of him. Oh my goodness.
Anyone in the field of exercise would agree that the definition of fitness that Greg Glassman came up with is as complete as any that's ever been. So work capacity across broad time and modal domains. It's as complete as there ever has been a definition.
Fitness is your ability to perform. When we're talking about physical fitness, that means your ability to perform the given tasks using your body.
Fitness is not just in the gym, fitness is outside of the gym. It's life. Anytime you find yourself saying, damn it, I can't do that, you have a hole in your fitness.
I would explain fitness as an intersection of your basic ability to move other things, to move your body, and do those things in combination. It's that overlapping of ability that exists when you have the weightlifter and the runner and the gymnast. It's that part in the middle that intersects. And the bigger that part is, the more fit you are.
Without an empirical definition of fitness, all claims to be the fittest are meaningless. Greg Glassman revolutionized the billion-dollar fitness industry when he defined fitness in scientific terms: measurable, observable, repeatable. A definition you could test.
If you try and say you're trying to test for the fittest people on earth, I think that test needs to be wide, it needs to be quantifiable, and it needs to be streamlined across the board for all athletes.
From short, from a 100-meter sprint to long, a marathon. And to test fitness, you have to test all of those elements.
It also has to have known and unknown elements. So you're not just testing horsepower and pure output. In some respects, you're testing things that they've never tested before. Some of it's task accomplishment, some of it is speed through a certain task.
How can you recover with limited sleep, limited rest? You've got 4 days of competing. How can you recover and still perform well on the last day?
You have to be able to control when you push, how you handle discomfort. There's an element to physical fitness that has to live up here.
The test that unites all of these elements is the CrossFit Games.
Welcome to the CrossFit Games, a full week of competition here in Carson, California. And after these 12 events, we will know who wins the title of fittest on earth.
I didn't really feel like I was competing in the CrossFit Games. It was more about just going and having a good workout, and it's probably something I'll never get to do again, swim and jump on a bar and do some muscle ups.
It was a little scary too, let's be honest here. It felt like doing bar muscle up on a wet towel.
Anyone can go to a pool and swim laps and do med ball cleans. That's easy. You could take a med ball to the pool right now, your local pool, and do that. Most people can't go to a pool and get out of the pool and on the deck there's a rogue rig and do muscle ups.
I think by introducing elements that you can't practice in a gym, it keeps the athletes guessing, it keeps the athletes interested, it keeps the spectators interested, it keeps the whole world interested when you're just a spectator.
It's a necessary part of our test at the CrossFit Games. Could we do a test of fitness where we did announce everything ahead of time and well ahead of time? Sure. But for our theatrics and for our event and for our spectacle, it adds to all of that. It's more than just a competition of the fittest alive. It's performing art, it's theater.
This is what fitness is all about. How can you handle these real-world objects, odd objects? We're testing that right now, and it's very apparent if they've been doing these sorts of movements or not.
The pig. After a 2-mile run, you run to that thing and you're like, okay, how do I do this? We didn't get to touch it. We didn't get to play with it. We didn't know how much it weighed. We didn't know whether or not to wear gloves. You just grab it, you flip it, and you're like, okay, there's the first one, here we go.
That was like a 1 rep max deadlift over and over again for 60 reps. And I just remember thinking to myself, damn, this is very, very, very challenging for me. But if it's that challenging for me, I know it's challenging for them.
One thing that helped me out was that I look over to the left and I see Dan Bailey just slobbery coming out of his mouth, and it kind of just made me like settle down, like, okay, like this is normal when I'm feeling like this is really hard for everybody.
And all that says to me is that these people can adapt to physical activity like nobody else on earth.
We're not testing specialization. We're not testing pre-game strategy for these guys. We're testing in the field performance. How do you respond to something that you haven't trained for before? That's an element of fitness.
It makes you pour cement stones and try it. It makes you go seek out a hill, tear up a trail, and sprint up it and carry a sandbag. If we were only good at gym movements, we'd only be good in the gym.
We force you to train a holistic package. We force you to train everything. And some people crack under that.
And Fisher may have actually passed Rich Froning. We'll have to wait, and he did. Garrett Fisher by a 1/10 of a second over the champ.
Just to pass him the last little of the workout and beat him, it felt good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it felt good.
You can't prepare for those things. You can't prepare for them. So how do you do it? You prepare for it by trying everything.
I think the games bring out a need for mental fortitude and mental discipline that you might not find in everyday training. I think people around the world understand what it means to handle things that are uncomfortable, to stay disciplined and stay consistent with your training. These athletes take it to an entirely different level.
The US or even the world, you know, everything's become easier and we've taken out all that hard work. I think we were created to work hard, and that's what we're supposed to do.
Whatever somebody basically thinks is impossible, it's being done right now, and it's being done by people who just don't listen to those kind of limitations. And those are the type of people that compete at the CrossFit Games.
And this is why I like CrossFit. When you hit that wall and you tell that wall, get out of my way, and you just go through that thing, close your eyes, and just keep going.
Regardless the lengths they go to prepare themselves, the director of the CrossFit Games always finds a way to exceed the capacities of the world's fittest athletes.
The marathon row was the most miserable experience of my athletic career. Just mentally, just bashing your head against the screen for an hour and 20 minutes is what it felt like.
After I finished college rowing, I told myself, I was like, I'm never going on that machine again. It's like a death machine. And then a couple years later, here I am, rowing a marathon row. So
I think the row event was pretty cool. A lot of people disagree.
Not only I knew this wasn't an event at all for me, also I didn't know if I would be able to keep going, and it destroyed me emotionally. And then that became my hardest game ever.
I think from a spectator point of view, they're sitting there like, I wonder what this guy's gonna do. And I'm sitting there like, I wonder what I'm gonna do.
You're really nervous, you know it's a 2K, it's kind of a sprint right at the start of the event. I don't remember exactly what the half marathon started at in meters at the time.
You're sitting there like, okay, you're rowing at like, hard rate. You're like, is that 2K?
As I'm pulling, I'm thinking, well, it's 21,000 something, but I don't know what it was, so I think I went all the way down. And probably rode hard for an extra 500 meters.
So I just kept going. I kept going until I hit 7 minutes. Like that, I have to be done. There's no way I can't be done.
It was pretty much like a dogfight, having the screen up and seeing where you were placed in the pack.
And so then after I got to 7 minutes, I took my pace from 1:33 whatever to about a 2 minute and 10 second. Just sat there, regained my composure for about a minute, and then once I felt like I was back on track, I dropped it to a 150. And I held that for the next hour.
For you to take the top 10 finishers of the Boston Marathon and list them out, and then have another group list the top 10 VO2 maxes of the best guys in the Boston Marathon, they're not going to match up linearly. You have to run the race to figure that stuff out. Who's the best? Well, run the race. You can't do it in the laboratory. And that's the physiological difference between potential and capacity.
Zigzag sprint, that's my jam.
And it's time for the zigzag sprint, the 5th of 12 scored events.
The night before, I had a couple guys outside and they were pretending to be the obstacles and they were trying to teach me how to run around them. So I'd run and I'd push them out of the way.
Out with Dan Bailey. So here comes Stacy Tovar, and it's going to be those three who will move on. Stacy Tovar.
I remember coming through and just sprinting as hard as I could through the finish line and knew that I lost.
It's Bailey, it's Hendrick, we're going to have to go to the chip. That was a photo finish.
But I've lost races by 100th of a second before, and I've won races by 100th of a second, and you know when you win and lose. I really wanted to win it.
And we are ready for the 8th of 12 scored events, the clean and jerk ladder.
If a guy bombs out at a weightlifting meet, but he could have lifted it, should he still be recognized as being the strongest guy at the weightlifting meet? Pretty cut and dry in that environment. Nobody's giving him any kudos for that. No, he's got to actually lift it and do it.
Everybody likes lifting.
Marcho underneath that, standing it up. Lucas Parker out of the hole at 3:45.
I mean, I didn't go bad. I took 7th. I mean, it's not, I don't think anybody would say it's bad, right? But my legs just had nothing in them.
I felt fine. Legs felt fresh. I think it was just adrenaline.
People were going nuts. It was so damn cool.
230 pounds for Cara Webb.
And the jerk even more solid than the clean stabilized.
And I thought when I got out there it would start feeling a little lighter. It didn't. Still felt heavy.
I mean, we had a lot of legs, but my legs felt great coming out of that squat.
Previous PR was 315, so I jerked 315, then 325, and then only just made the clean at 335, missed the jerk.
And my technique broke down because I didn't prepare well enough. Exhausted, at heavy loads, with a highly skilled movement. That's why.
Being strong at high heart rate is something unique that we test and is very important in the real world and in determining fitness. No one else is testing fitness. Strongman events aren't, and they're not claiming to. Weightlifting's obviously not, and they're not claiming to. You look at a decathlete, some would say they're the fittest alive, but actually their claim is the best athlete in the world. And they really test 3 different domains. They test running, they test throwing, and they test jumping. Decathletes at the highest level are very strong, but in their events, in their 10 events, they don't test strength.
Fitness is not a theoretical, well, I think I could have done that if things were a little bit different. It doesn't work that way. Fitness is what can you show me today?
Keep your eyes open, guys. I think this one's going to go really quick.
I really like the sprint chipper.
That was a very cool workout.
I get excited when anything 21:15:9 comes out. Doesn't matter what it is.
Like we didn't know how fast we were gonna do it, how hard it was gonna be.
Because for me, those workouts are just red line. It's go, 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 all gas pedal, no brake.
It was really, a big sprint against the watch, and you couldn't think about what you were doing because everyone was going so fast.
What I was thinking about was how that'd be a pretty stupid mistake if you drop the ball because you'd lose the event, period.
I think I went out a little bit too hot, so by the time I got off the GHD machine, I felt very dizzy and almost like blown up.
In the middle of a workout like that, it doesn't hurt. Like it really doesn't. You pretty much go numb.
My legs were burning really, really bad, and I had to drop that bar, and those 165 were the heaviest snatches like I've ever done.
And all you're thinking about is finishing as fast as you can. But it's the aftermath when you're done that buries you.
The snatches, I thought Jason would move easier than me because it was 165. I waited for him to put the bar down. Once he put the bar down, I did one more rep. And then when he picked the bar up, I picked the bar up, so I was another rep ahead of him.
Dan Bailey has the time to beat. Broding's got to hurry.
And then it was just beat him over that wall several times.
And Rich Broding is the first man to the wall, and he will make it. Rich Broding is now 100 points richer.
I needed that one. If I would have won the games and not won an event, there should have just been people talking, and I don't like to leave any doubt.
A test of this magnitude must be prodigiously well designed. Surprises, variety, equipment unveilings, and previously impossible challenges rule the day.
I don't like to program workouts for a location without having intimately spent some time at that venue. I'll go to the Home Depot Center multiple times throughout the year and just sit in various locations and look at those locations and figure out and feel how something's gonna play. Because you just can't create a workout, you've got to create an experience.
Women through the pylons at the same time, and now it's a race to the finish. It's Crawford. She makes the touch.
At the games alone, we have 25 committees, over 600 volunteers, hundreds of contractors. We spend millions and millions of dollars on this test. It's that important to CrossFit to make sure that the test of the fittest man and the fittest woman on earth is the right test.
One of the things we have to battle with and struggle with is this need for the workouts to be so grand or written so big or such unique equipment. There is something to keeping everything basic and fundamental. You don't need to read a workout and go, oh my God, that looks so hard. The barbell, some high skill bodyweight movements, and the athletes are all we need to have a really good test.
The thruster rope climb got me. Thruster rope climb got me bad.
So you guys didn't have to get fancy, and that's what I liked about this year's CrossFit Games. There was nothing that was so outside the box fancy. It was just straight CrossFit, and Naughty Nancy was a great example of that. Run, overhead squat, repeat, and it is gonna tear you up.
Someone asked, hey, what's your favorite workout? And it is a tough question because it's like, what's your favorite kid? But this year, for me, the rope climb thruster workout. Simple, basic format, highly effective, and exposed a ton of weakness for a ton of people.
We have to keep those events very, very secret so that we know that the elements that we're testing in the games haven't been practiced by those athletes.
This was new, and now everyone who fail are never gonna fail again at that.
You know, I don't regret that. I don't regret jumping up there because it took taking a chance and being okay with failing. And that's what CrossFit's about, right? You know, that's what makes people harder, you know, physically and mentally. So take chances. Go fast and take chances.
We've traditionally been very good at doing a few things with the games, exposing people's weaknesses that they didn't know they have, and pushing people past the limits of what they thought was possible.
That's why the test is so important, is that the test forces people outside the margins of their experience. Otherwise, these athletes wouldn't do that. Unless you're faced with something that you've never done before, you don't know whether or not you can do it. You have confidence you can do it. You've done something similar to that, but you don't know.
A lot of these athletes don't know their potential yet and don't know where they can take it, and the only way you can get to that potential and increase your work capacity is with intensity.
Michelle trying to stand it up, she's struggling.
Something brutal that is that fun is when you pass your own limit and find yourself in a position of achievement. That's how you beat the other girl. That's how you go to the CrossFit Games, competing almost desperately to go and win.
At the games, we're programming for the best and we're programming to test the fittest. Guess what? If we pick a weight like 405 and one or two people can't do it, that's appropriate.
And unless you have a test that forces you outside that level, forces you outside of your comfort zone, you don't really know.
Great example, 100-pound dumbbell at the regionals. I lifted it up for the first time, I was like, damn, this thing sucks. I couldn't even get it.
Jason Khalipa, one of the strongest CrossFitters, doubted himself in doing that, and then he had one of the fastest times ever.
You put something out to the public, and you think it's doable, and it is doable, you just gotta get there. By the time the regionals came around, I was smashing it.
You know, I think that's what separates a games athlete from a non-games athlete. They don't really listen to the limitations. They find out what the limitation is and say, well, I'm gonna step over that line today and see what happens.
There's so many hidden secrets to the human body that we haven't unlocked that, you know, I'm not going to put any limit on my body, and nor should anybody else.
I have been at, perhaps you could say, the top of the game for the last 7 years, and I'm only getting better every day. That's crazy. I mean, I'm PRing all kinds of stuff all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to me. It just blows my mind.
After my first year, everyone was telling me, when more people are gonna get involved, you're gonna be out. And then the next year, when more people are gonna be involved, you guys are gonna be out. Better athletes are gonna come. And it's not happening.
There's only one common denominator there, CrossFit. You know, those people are extremely fit individuals, obviously. And that's what's cool, is how many tests have they been through and how many times have they proven how fit they are.
I'm the fittest CrossFitter this year because of the workouts that we did. That can all change next year. So I need to make sure that my training is as varied as possible so that hopefully I can go back and defend my title next year.
We don't need more tests. I think we're getting very, very good at determining what's the right number of tests and what are those tests to make sure you get the right answer. But what's unique in CrossFit is that we can literally test for things that nobody else in the world can test. And that's what makes the CrossFit Games unique.
To see how far the athletes have come, an event from the inaugural CrossFit Games in 2007 was repeated in 2013.
I was curious to see how we would compare now, so that just shows how much the level of fitness has improved or increased. And it was just cool to see like how many women have beaten that winning time from 2007.
Now Asia Barto, the only man so far to not surpass the best time of 2007 of 13.
So the definition of fitness hasn't been changed, but the level of fitness has been significantly raised. The ceiling for what humans are capable of is going up, and it's continuing to go higher because of the games and because of CrossFit, the methodology.
It's become quite the test. In the very first year that I competed, we had 4 workouts, 2008. And 3 on day 1, 1 on the second day. And that was a lot of volume for most of the competitors to survive.
What people are doing in 2007 to be the fittest person alive, the capacity that they had is very different than the capacity of what people in 2013 are able to do to be the fittest alive.
You know us, you know what we're capable of. I don't know how you figure it out, but you do. And it's always a good test.
What would have happened if the final event of the 2013 Reebok CrossFit Games was programmed in 2007, 2008, 2009, or even 2010?
Yeah, it would not have been a viable choice in 2009. There's no way.
If you would have asked me in 2010 if the last workout would have had a 405 deadlift and weighted pistols, I would have said you're crazy.
There would have been a lot of people stuck on deadlifts.
That's probably the most demanding blend of capacities that we've seen in a single event.
Rob Orlando would have finished it. I don't know about in the time cap, but.
So your work potential, how do we know it or define it? We don't, but we know you have more than you have now.
Oh yeah? You want us to do more? Cool, we can do that too. Oh, we've never even seen this thing. Watch this. This is what we can do.
And we're not even near what we were before. You cannot even compare it. I mean, it's not the same.
Here you are, you turn on the TV, or as an athlete, and here's these guys lifting 405 pounds. You're like, damn, I don't know exactly how much that is, but that looks heavy. And then you watch them walk on their hands. I mean, it's just like, wow, like that was cool. You know, like who are these guys? They look very fit.
It just pretty much showcases our sport and what our athletes can do.
We ask more of these athletes than anybody else, more than they would ask of themselves, even though they push themselves hard every day. But you wouldn't get that level of capacity, you wouldn't get that level of performance unless they had a test that was this demanding.
And it's not a gimmick. These guys aren't good at CrossFit. They're really, really fit. They're the fittest alive, period.
We can't anticipate the events of life. We can't anticipate what's going to happen next. So we do any and everything we can do to be ready for what is thrown at us, and that's how I train.
Rich just works hard. That's it. You know, like I've spent a lot of time with the dude. He just works out a lot. That's what he does. He's not just going to show up for 1 week in a year and be able to get lucky and perform well, because he's just good all the time.
His fitness is real. and he's shown that across all the levels. And the Open and the regionals and the games are a real test because of that.
When they start to fall off is when I start to get better. At that point, I'm like, all right, it's time to finish the deal.
Rich Froning showing no signs of slowing down.
If the programming determined who wins, Rich Froning's been a lucky bastard for the last 3 years in the CrossFit Games, the last 2 years in the Open that he's taken first place, and the last 3 regionals that he's won. So that's almost 9 or 10 different events, and he's won them all.
But you know that you've got the fittest man and woman when it doesn't matter exactly what the order or what the tests were, and the exact same thing would happen.
We held 7 CrossFit Games. This man has won 3 of them. I give you the 2013 Reebok CrossFit Games champion, Rich Froning.
Physically, I feel great. Physically, I feel like I could do this for another 7 to 10 years. But mentally, it takes a toll on you. Mentally, it's a different animal. So we'll see.
I think we've still got an unlimited playing field for adaptations still. I think that people are going to get stronger. I think they're going to get faster. Will we see somebody with a sub 5-minute mile and a 500+ pound back squat? Yes. Will there be lots of them in 10 years? Yes.
We've seen heavy weights, we've seen endurance stuff. I think the next evolution is really complex gymnastics. So like planches, iron crosses, freestanding handstand push-ups.
I think CrossFit is single-handedly going to prove what the human body is capable of doing in multiple different domains.
And that's what's cool about this. It's a big experiment. There's no one way to train for this. What the athletes are all doing is training constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. What that looks like in application varies across the board.
That's our next generation. I'm so excited to see all those little girls kicking some butt and being muscular and all of that.
I think in the next 7 to 10 years, we will see someone with the capacity to run a sub 5-minute mile and clean and jerk close to 400 pounds. I think you'll see it.
They're all gonna have 300-pound snatches. They're all gonna have 600-pound deadlifts. They're all gonna run sub 5-minute miles. They're all gonna have sub 2:15 Frans.
They're gonna be phenomenal. It's gonna be phenomenal.
It'll be fun to watch because I'll be watching at that point for sure.
I don't think we're gonna win marathons. I don't think we're gonna win Olympic lifting competitions. I think people are gonna catch on to, wow, that dude just lifted a lot of weight and he can run and he looks good. Wow.
Look, I was a Navy SEAL for 12 years. And if you were to say, how would I create the ultimate Navy SEAL physically? It would be through this training program, and it'd be someone like Rich Froning. And this program does that. It builds superheroes, it builds real life superheroes.
And in 2020, we'll look back and say we were just in 2013 scratching the surface. We were just starting to understand what fitness really was. And I just hope that we don't look back and go, hey, we were sandbagging it. We weren't asking more.